Dear sister, when we keep silent, we would hear the loud echoes of the darkness. Tonight was one of those nights Josh wished that he'd not been so opposed to the idea of having Kenny as his roommate. Maybe then he would not have to spend the night alone. He had purposely spent his entire day at the basketball court so he would feel tired enough to not care that he would be sleeping alone in his new room. He heard the door shut tightly. It was his mother. She had come back from work a while ago, and he knew this because he'd seen her car drive through from the bathroom. He hadn't had dinner yet and hoped she'd gladly call him down to join her. They could order a large pizza and some soda and eat while watching House of the Dragon, or any other show she wanted to. At this point, he didn't care as long as he didn't have to spend the night alone. His fear for the night had only started just recently when he saw Olivia's lifeless face staring blankly at him from the cold bathroom floor where she had passed on in the pool of her own blood. He hurriedly put on his sweatpants and an old shirt and ran downstairs, startling his mother who had already gotten started on dinner. "Josh, you scared me. What are you doing here? I thought you should be asleep by now," she said, pouring a glass of juice for him. "Sorry, I didn't know you weren't paying attention to your surroundings," he said cheekily, making his mother smile. "Well, it's good to see that you're back to being your usual annoying self," she smiled at him. "Well, I try. Here, take this. You'll need to eat this. I'm so tired right now. This is the only thing I could whip up in record time without falling asleep," she said, handing him a plate. "What is this?" he asked, taking a piece of the cookie on the plate. "That's peanut butter cookies and Parmesan cookies. I invented it," she said proudly, handing him one. "Here, have a bite. You'll enjoy it a lot. And before you say anything about it, I made just enough for tonight." "Yeah, it's fine. I'll just eat what I can. So I'll be coming home late tomorrow. I'll leave some money for you so you can get some pizza with your friends or something else if you want." "I don't have any friends, Mom," he responded dryly, wishing she wouldn't go. "I know, honey. And even though I don't approve of that kind of living, I'm hoping that making friends would help you out. You need people to help you get out of your shell. Can we not talk about this right now?" he pleaded, taking a bite of his cookies. He moaned in pleasure as the burst of flavor filled his mouth. "You like it, I see. I'm sure you'll like the others too. Here, take it with this almond milk I'm drinking. It's delicious," she said, urging Josh to sip the milk, which he did. "Here, finish up. I'll lock the doors. Make sure you turn the lights off tonight. You forgot last night and I haven't gotten my paycheck yet." "Yes, Mom. Good night, son." 2 hours and many turns later, a dark phantom moved steadily around the sleeping teenager on the queen-sized bed in the middle of the room. Josh had no idea what had woken him, but he knew something had done that. He wasn't sure if it was the unbearable heat in the room that made him open his eyes or the figure standing by the door of the room illuminated by the streetlights outside. He stared with sleepy eyes at the phantom moving steadily towards his bed. He blinked rapidly, trying to rid himself of the sleep in his eyes. He stared in horror as the figure floated towards him, seemingly unable to move his body away from the bed. He tried to speak up, but all that came out were gasps and strangled breaths. He tried to turn on the lamp at his bedside table, but he couldn't move his arm. The figure floated steadily towards him, and occasionally he'd hear a whoosh, like there was a mighty wind passing by. He gritted his teeth, trying so hard to get his limbs to move, but with each step, it felt like they were logs of wood instead of flesh. The more he tried to move, the more the heaviness in his body and chest tightened. This was more than he'd ever experienced in the past, and he wasn't sure what was happening. The room was still hot, but it looked like there was a thunderstorm outside. The figure stopped by the foot of his bed, and although its face was covered, Josh felt like it was staring at him. He was already drenched in his sweat and couldn't wipe it out. Slowly, the figure stretched its hands towards him, as if asking for his hands. Josh could only stare in disbelief as the hair on the figure gave way to the disfigured face of his late sister. A scream bubbled in his throat, but only came out as gasps. Her eyes were empty, but the grin on her face was sinister. Her lips were moving, but he had no idea what she was saying, and just then, the door to his room opened and his mother poked her head in. "Oh my gosh, Josh, are you okay? It's like 90 degrees in here. Did you leave the heater on?" she said in alarm, hurriedly going to check the heater in the room. Josh was still unable to move while battling with this figure by the bed until he felt his mother's cold hands on his head. He sat up immediately, gasping for air. Jane stared at her son strangely. only just realizing that his face was filled with tears. There are a lot of things he wanted to do, but he could only keep crying. Shh, it's okay, Josh, I'm here now. Stop crying. Can I sleep in your room tonight? He asked, not sure how to tell her what had just happened. I think it's time we make an appointment with your therapist, Josh. What do you think? Mom, I just want to sleep, he said instead, gathering his things to go with her. It's all right.
Subscribe today, or beware.